जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम
हरे राम
राम
राम राम हरे हरे।
हरे कृष्णा।
हरे
So we were
कृष्णा।
discussing the 18th chapter, and yesterday we completed the verse where Krishna says that yajna dan tapa should be done as a matter of duty. So today we are going to continue. Okay, I can hear myself. Somebody needs to go on mute. Can everybody else go on mute, please? Okay, thank you. I think that's better. Okay, so today, now we will continue with that theme. So now Krishna is going to talk about sannyas in the three modes: rajas, tamas, and in the mode of goodness, sattva. So, and one characteristic we will see today, that Krishna had also defined what is tyaga and what is sannyasa, but we will see now going ahead, Krishna will use these two words, sannyas and tyaga, interchangeably. That will be throughout the chapter we'll see that. So Krishna will not differentiate now in these two going forward. So we have to start from 18.7. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, are you all able to see my screen now?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, all right. Let's recite this verse. You can repeat after me. नियतस्य तु संन्यासः
नियतस्य तु संन्यासः
कर्माणो नोपपद्यते
कर्माणो नोपपद्यते
मोहात् तस्य
मोहात् तस्य परित्यागस्
तामसः परिकीर्तितः
तामसः परिकीर्तितः
नियतस्य तु संन्यासः
नियतस्य तु संन्यासः
कर्माणो नोपपद्यते
कर्मणो नोपपद्यते
मोहात् तस्य परित्यागस्
मोहात् तस्य परित्यागस्
तामसः परिकीर्तितः
तामसः परिकीर्तितः
नियतस्य तु संन्यासः
नियतस्य तु संन्यासः
कर्माणो नोपपद्यते
कर्मणो नोपपद्यते
मोहात् तस्य परित्यागस्
मोहात् तस्य परित्यागस्
तामसः परिकीर्तितः.
तामसः परिकीर्तितः.
Anyone else would like to recite?
नियतस्य तु संन्यासः
नियतस्य तु संन्यासः
कर्माणो नोपपद्यते
कर्माणो नोपपद्यते
मोहात् तस्य परित्यागस्
मोहात् तस्य परित्यागस्
तामसः परिकीर्तितः.
तामसः परिकीर्तितः.
Anyone else?
नियतस्य तु संन्यासः
नियतस्य तु संन्यासः
कर्माणो प्रपद्यते
कर्माणो नोपपद्यते
मोहात् तस्य परित्यागस्
मोहात्
तस्य परित्यागस्
तामसः परिकीर्तितः.
तामसः परिकीर्तितः.
नियतस्य तु संन्यासः
नियतस्य तु संन्यासः
कर्मणो नोपपद्यते
कर्माणो नोपपद्यते
मोहातस्य परित्यागस्
मोहातस्य परित्यागः
तामसा परिकीर्तितः
तामसः
तामसा
परिकीर्तितः.
परिकीर्तितः.
Anyone from Prabhuji's?
नियतस्य तु संन्यासा
नियतस्य तु संन्यासः
संन्यासः
कर्मणो नोपपद्यते
कर्मणो
कर्मणो
नोपपद्यते.
मोहातस्य परित्यागस्
मोहातस्य परित्यागः
तामसः परिकीर्तितः
तामसः परिकीर्तितः. Okay, let's recite the synonyms. Niyatasya,
niyatasya
prescribed.
prescribed
To,
to
but.
but
Sannyasah,
sannyasa
renunciation.
renunciation
Renunciation.
Karmanah,
karmana
Karmanah.
of activities.
of
Our
activities
activity.
Na,
na
No.
never.
never
Never.
Upadyate,
upadate
is deserved.
is deserved
Mohat,
mohat
Moha.
by illusion.
by
By
illusion
illusion.
Tasya,
tasya
of them.
of them
Of them.
Parityagah,
parityaga
renunciation.
renunciation
Tamasah,
tamasha
Tamasah.
in the mode of ignorance.
in the
The
mode
mode
of
of
ignorance.
ignorance.
Parikirtitah,
Parikirtitah.
Parikirtityaha
is declared.
is
Is
declared.
declared.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Prescribed duties should never be renounced. If one gives up his prescribed duties because of illusion, such renunciation is said to be in the mode of ignorance. Purport: work for material satisfaction must be given up, but activities which promote one to spiritual activity, like cooking for the Supreme Lord and offering the food to the Lord, and then accepting the food, are recommended. It is said that a person in the renounced order of life should not cook for himself. Cooking for oneself is prohibited, but cooking for the Supreme Lord is not prohibited. Similarly, a sannyasi may perform a marriage ceremony to help his disciple in the advancement of Krishna consciousness. If one renounces such activities, it is to be understood that he is acting in the mode of darkness. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. I read the translation one more time. Prescribed duties should never be renounced. If one gives up his prescribed duties because of illusion, such renunciation is said to be in the mode of ignorance. This verse is very, very clear. Niyatasya tu sannyasah karmano nopapadyate mohat tasya parityagas tamasah parikirtitah. So first of all, just see that both the words sannyasa, here is the word sannyasa here, and parityagas, tyaga and sannyas, both are coming in the same verse. And Prabhupada is translating both as renunciation. So we'll see this theme going forward, that Krishna is going to use these words interchangeably now. And this verse is very clear in a sense that if due to illusion one gives up his prescribed duties, then that renunciation is said to be in the mode of ignorance. Now, what are the examples of this? Can anyone give an example? Like, what does it mean to come in illusion and give up the prescribed duties? Anything from the contemporary life that we lead? Anyone?
Prabhuji, like if a household.
Go ahead, Mataji. Sorry.
So, if a householder thinks that it is very troublesome to maintain a family, and he gives up his prescribed duty of maintaining the household, so he might think that sannyasa is very easy because he doesn't have to do anything. But that if he gives up that activity which he has to done, then that will be in the mode of ignorance.
Yeah, because of trouble, if one gives up, that is in the mode of that is the rajas, that is in the mode of passion. Now here we are talking about mode of ignorance, where Prabhupada is saying that or Krishna is saying that out of illusion one gives up his prescribed duties. So what are the examples of illusion? Okay, so
luxury or pleasure or some other things which are not divine stuff.
yeah, that could be. So here illusion could mean, say for example, we had the hippies. Hippies had given up all kind of activities, and what was the illusion that they were in? They were basically in the under the influence of drugs, LSD, all sorts of nonsense things. Then out of laziness, if someone is very lazy, well, oh yeah, I have to do it, but I'm not feeling like doing it. Let me just sleep. Sleeping is better. So if one is like say it's a drunkard, and out of because he's so drunk he just can't wake up in the morning to do anything good. So those are some of the examples of coming in illusion. This is complete distortion of the sannyas order, the sannyas ashram. Once Prabhupada visited one of the life members at ISKCON, and he was talking to them, and he saw that this person, he was a senior person, like a relatively elder in age, and he had his brother, and his brother was dressed in saffron, and next to his brother was his wife, the brother's wife, and she was also dressed in saffron. So Prabhupada asked him later, what is this? Why is your brother dressed in saffron? So he said, no, he is a sannyasi. He's a sannyasi and he has his wife with him. So what is this? So he said, no, he follows some organization who preach neo-sannyas. So Prabhupada asked, no, what is this neo-sannyas? So they said that their philosophy is that you can actually live with your wife and you can still be a renunciate. So Prabhupada said this is all nonsense. So, this is a complete distortion of the sannyas order. Sannyasa means you have to give up. The first thing that is to be given up is your family connections. Unless you give up your family connections, you cannot actually be a real sannyasi. So these are some of the examples of, renouncing in the mode of ignorance, tamas. Any questions or comments on this? Otherwise, if not, we can discuss the comments, questions after the next verse. Anything anybody would like to add? All right, let's move on to the next verse. We just recite it once and then we'll discuss it. Okay, you can repeat after me. Dukkhamiti eva yat karma.
Dukkhamiti eva et karma.
Kaya klesha bhayat tyajet.
Kaya klesha bhayat tyajet.
So kritva rajasam tyagam.
Sa kritva rajasam tyagam.
Naiva tyaga phalam labhet.
Naiva tyaga phalam labhet.
Synonyms: dukkham,
Dukkham,
unhappy,
unhappy.
iti,
Iti,
thus, eva, certainly, yat,
which,
karma, work, kaya, for the body, klesha, trouble, bhayat, out of fear, tyajet, gives up, saha, he, kritva, after doing, rajasam, in the mode of passion, tyagam, renunciation, na, not, eva, certainly, tyaga, of renunciation, phalam, the results, labhet, gains. Translation: anyone who gives up prescribed duties as troublesome or out of fear of bodily discomfort is said to have renounced in the mode of passion. Such action never leads to the elevation of renunciation. Purport: One who is in Krishna consciousness should not give up earning money out of fear that he is performing fruitive activities. If by working one can engage his money in Krishna consciousness, or if by rising early in the morning one can advance his transcendental Krishna consciousness, one should not desist out of fear or because such activities are considered troublesome. Such renunciation is in the mode of passion. The result of passionate work is always miserable. If a person renounces work in that spirit, he never gets the result of renunciation. So again, it's a very clear verse, dukkham iti eva yat karma. There is so much dukkha is misery. There is so much misery involved in the work. Kaya klesha bhayat tyajet, and it is troublesome for my body. Sakritva rajasam tyagam. Such a renunciation, it is in the mode of good, in the mode of passion. Naiva tyaga phalam lavet. And by such a renunciation, the person will not get the fruit of renunciation. Okay, so very clear verse. See, one of the characteristic of the mode of passion is that a person is very much bodily conscious. So when a person is in the very, very bodily conscious, he wants to do things which give pleasure to the body, and he wants to avoid those things which give misery to the body. So that is one of the characteristic of the mode of passion. So we see that I have also heard this from many brahmacharis. They do college preaching programs. So many times they tell that some students, when they start becoming devotees, they feel that actually Krishna consciousness is so nice, and all you have to do is sing, dance, eat, and just be merry. And on the contrary, if you on the college, you have to do so much hard work. You have to submit your assignments on time, you have to appear for exams, you have to study so hard, and what happens with that, it is so troublesome. So, and then they said, anyway, it is all avidya only, so why do all this unnecessary things? So just better give it up. So this kind of renunciation from prescribed duties, it is, because it is not based on attraction to Krishna, it is more like an easy way out of, it is basically hiding behind Krishna, such kind of renunciation. And such kind of renunciation is actually, it cannot be sustained for a long time. Can I request everyone to go on mute, please? I'm able to hear myself. So thank you. So, so also, if you remember in the seventh chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna did mention, Chaturvidha bhajante mam, Chaturvidha bhajante mam, Janaha Sukritino Arjuna, Artha Artharthi Jigyasu, Gyani Cha Bharata Rishabha. So Artha is one who is distressed. So such a person, Krishna welcomes that person. Okay, you can come to me. But, Artha, if due to distress, you give up your prescribed activities, that is not good. So there is a difference. Sometimes people get confused in these two things. Renouncing the activities and, approaching Krishna. They are two different activities. You can approach Krishna without renouncing your activities. Now here there is a little, some people say it's a little controversial, this verse. What is the controversy here? If you remember, Krishna had been saying the definition of tyaga is, Krishna had been saying it is sarva karma phala tyaga. Giving up the fruits of your work. Sarva karma phala tyaga. Tyaga means giving up. Phala means fruit, and sarva karma, of all fruitive activities. But here in this verse, Krishna saying naiva tyaga phalam labhet. If one renounces like this, he will not get the fruit of renunciation. This sounds a little contrary. First, Krishna is saying that, giving up the fruit of action. And now Krishna is saying that if you give up your activities like this, you will not get the fruit of renunciation. So what does this mean? Can anyone quickly tell me what is the fruit of renunciation? What do you get by renunciation? What do we get out of renunciation? Why do we renounce at all if we don't get anything?
To help our spiritual benefits.
I'm sorry?
To help our spiritual benefits, spiritually.
Right, exactly. That is the fruit of renunciation is basically purification. It is self-realization. So that is the fruit. But if one gives up out of in a spirit that it is inconvenience to my body, it is so much troublesome to my body, then your spiritual advancement will not happen, because your renunciation is not based on some positive motivation. It is more like a negative motivation. I don't want to have trouble in my life. That's why I just want to renounce. So there is a difference in the two. So there is certainly, even though a person renounces, there is a fruit of that renunciation also. And that fruit of renunciation is not material. It is more in the sense that, so tyaga, what it does is, in a sense, it leads to deepening of jnana. Now, when one is not emotionally entangled in the fruits of work, at that time, he can contemplate dispassionately about the truths of life. Now, if a person is caught up in seeking the fruits of work, mind is not free to contemplate. So, but when you free up your mind, when you are not seeking anything in specific, then you free up your mind. And then that will lead to your, deepening of jnana, and which will lead to realization. And with realization, you can progress in your spiritual life. If one is only on emotional platform, then there will be no jnana involved there. It's just out of emotion. So on the other hand, so there is one thing is you are emotionally attached, and the other thing is you're emotionally averse. Emotionally averse in the sense that you are renouncing, as we just mentioned, because it is because of there's so much misery, so much displeasure. That is also. So there also there is no gyan there over there. Because what happens in these two situations, the mind is not available for contemplating on deeper truths. And that's why Krishna says, Naiva tyagam phalam labhet. If that happens, you will not get the fruit of renunciation. Now, there is another thing that comes up here. Krishna says that actually your renunciation, if it is based on either on a platform that the work is troublesome, or it will give misery to my body, such a renunciation is a mode of passion. But if you remember in the 13th chapter, when we were discussing when the Jnana Yoga section started, there actually Krishna had said janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanu darshanam. So basically the verse that was there was indriyartheshu vairagyam anahankar evacha janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanu darshanam. So basically at that time Krishna had said that the perception of the evils that are involved in janma, mrityu and jara vyadhi. Janma is birth, mrityu is death, jara is old age, and vyadhi is disease. So unless you have this perception, you will not be able to renounce. But now here Krishna is saying that such a renunciation is in the mode of passion. So what does it really mean? Any idea about this? Anyone like to comment on this? I think we did discuss about this when we were in the 13th chapter. Okay, so that yes, Prabhuji, go ahead.
I don't understand your question. How come dukkha doshana darshanam is same as passionate renunciation?
Okay, so here Krishna is saying dukkhamiti eva yat karma kaya klesha bhaya tyajet so kritva rajasam tyagam naiva tyaga phalam labet. So here Krishna is saying that actually if you are renouncing that the work is troublesome, and basically it's a negative motivation, that because it is so troublesome for me to do my duty, and it is it is going to give so much misery to my body, therefore I will not do my activity. In the 13th chapter Krishna had said that the verse that comes is indriyartheshu vairagyam anahankar evacha janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanu darshanam. The perception of the renunciation based on perception of janma, mrityu, jara and vyadhi. There is so much evil in janma, mrityu and jara and vyadhi. So, and there is so much dukkha involved, doshanu. So, and there is doshanu darshanam. Darshanam is, when you have realization of this, then you can renounce. So, aren't these two sounding similar, Prabhu, to you?
Well, one is, see, austerity for Krishna consciousness is different. Krishna is not telling us to die every day, or he is not telling us to get diseased. I mean, getting up in the morning is not same as getting diseased or getting, or dying. Of course, probably for Arjuna, he's on the battlefield, he has to give up his life. That austerity is understandable. That's an exception. But in general, austerity is not same as birth, death, old age, and disease, right?
Right. So I think where I am leading to is there is renunciation based on bodily discomfort and there is renunciation based on jnana. Jnana is when you have knowledge. Bhakti Vikas Maharaj, I was hearing a lecture from him a few days back where he says that, it is not necessary to drink poison to understand that it is poison. You can have jnana that this is poison, and if I drink it, it will basically give me trouble, So that is renunciation of poison based on the knowledge that this is poison. That is possible. We don't necessarily have to drink the poison to renounce the poison. So what was mentioned in the 13th chapter was based on jnana. So from jnana, jnana leads to vairagya. Krishna also had said that in the 6th chapter, if you remember. So here it is not based on jnana, it is based on renunciation, is based on bodily discomfort, because this is so troublesome for my body, therefore I don't want to do it. But I understand your point, Prabhuji. So I'll move further, and then after we discuss this, maybe we can talk about this more. So now it is possible that initially one may renounce in the mode of passion, but later he may become elevated. Shyamanand Prabhu, I don't know if Shyamanand Prabhu had given many lectures here in the Connecticut temple. In one of the lectures, I don't think it was in our temple. I was just hearing one of his lectures. So he was telling about how he became a brahmachari in the Radha Gopinath temple. So that was a long time back, obviously. Shyamanand Prabhu is a veteran in KC, in Krishna consciousness. We should not be using short forms all the time. So he had his friends, Satkumar Prabhu and Radha Gopinath Prabhu. So they used to come to temple together, and suddenly one day he realized that Satkumar Prabhu and Radha Gopinath Prabhu both had joined the temple full time as brahmacharis. Did someone hear this from Shyamanand Prabhu? He has told this story multiple times. Okay, anyway. So Shyamanand Prabhu told in the lecture that he also got motivated to join the temple full time. So he approached Radhanath Maharaj, and he said that, so Shyamanand Prabhu used to do a lot of service, even though he was not a full-time devotee. He used to do a lot of service, and people would know that he was actually at one time, I think he's still the president of the temple. So, and he's highly qualified. He was part of the team who translated the Srimad Bhagavatam in the Marathi language. So he is Maharashtrian. So he approached Radhanath Maharaj and said that, Maharaj, I want to join full time. And he thought that Maharaj will be so happy that, and he will welcome him. Please come, please join. Because at that time, there were not many qualified brahmacharis, as per what Prabhuji was telling. So he was thinking that Maharaj would welcome him. So Maharaj became a little grave and he asked him, why do you want to join? So Shyamanand Prabhu thought about it. And then he said, let me tell some philosophy to Maharaj. So he said, Maharaj, this material world there is so much misery in the material world. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, it is dukkhalaya ma shashvatam. There is so much dukkha, so I don't want to, be in the material world. Therefore, I want to join Krishna consciousness. I want to join as a full-time devotee. So Maharaj said, okay, there are miseries outside in the outside world, but there are miseries in the brahmachari life also. And when you realize the miseries of the brahmachari life, where will you renounce and go at that time? So he said that you're not ready for brahmachari ashram, so you can go. When you become ready, then you can come back. So Shyamanand Prabhu was a little heartbroken, and then he went back and then he thought about it. And then what he did is he mentioned that he actually heard a lot of Prabhupada lectures, he read Prabhupada books, he heard Maharaj's lectures. And then again, he came back to Maharaj after a few days. And then he told Maharaj, I want to join because I want to serve Krishna's mission. I want to assist in sharing Prabhupada's mission. And then Maharaj said that, okay, then you can join, So there is a similar thing that Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, when he came here to our temple first time, you might remember, I think it was in 2017. So he also told a similar story. So Chaitanya Charan Prabhu said that that was, I believe, in a Bhakti Riksha program at Rasraj Prabhu's home. So he was telling that just before he was coming to USA, a boy approached Chaitanya Charan Prabhu and he inquired a lot about the brahmachari life in the temple. And then he said, actually, I want to join as a brahmachari, but I will decide in 1 week and I'll let you know if I want to join or not. So Chaitanya Charan Prabhu was a little intrigued and he asked him, what is going to happen in 1 week? What is it that is going to influence your decision? So this boy said that actually I have proposed to my girlfriend, and if she, to a girl, if she says yes, then I will go with her. If she says no, then I will join as a brahmachari in the temple. So now what happens is, frustration is not the qualification of renunciation. Frustration is neither necessary nor sufficient for renunciation. So some people may get the desire for renunciation due to frustration, but it is not necessary for renunciation. So what happens is it may start the desire for renunciation, but if your renunciation based just on frustration, so that will not be enough. Basically it will not be sustainable. So there was a similar incident that happened with Devamrit Maharaj. I joined actually, I was watching that lecture also. Devamrit Maharaj gave a fantastic lecture. That was in Pune actually. In Pune, you might know there is a Prerna festival that happens. It's a very popular Prerna festival, is basically for youths. Basically college students come for that program. So the topic of that lecture was frustrated love. So a lady reporter actually had come that time. He wanted to do some coverage on Devamrit Maharaj, and then she was surprised. If someone have seen the Prerna festivals, at least they do a broadcast also on Facebook, etc., and on YouTube. So there are so many actually boys that come, and they actually have a age limit that if you are older than this age, you cannot come for this program. So I sneaked in once. This time when I was in Pune. Chaitanya Charan Prabhu was giving the class, so I sneaked in, and there's so many actually college students come for that program. Generally, you would not see college students coming for a spiritual program. So this lady reporter was surprised, and this is long time back actually when Devamrit Maharaj was giving the class. So the topic was frustrated love. So this lady reporter made a comment that, I didn't know that there are so many frustrated lovers in Mumbai. So her idea was that, because these people have become frustrated in getting, whatever love or whatever, therefore they have come for this spiritual program. But later, after talking to some of these people, so she's a reporter, she was covering the event also. So she spoke to the students also. So later she realized that some of the students were so intelligent, some of them were IITians, some of them were, very highly qualified students. And she realized that actually they are too intelligent to become frustrated. So actually renunciation it's not that it comes only from frustration. Renunciation can come from jnana also. So now, how do we understand the difference between frustration and renunciation? So frustration actually implies inability to get enjoyment. When I'm not able to get enjoyment, then that may lead me to become frustrated. Material desires frustrated. That is what you wanted to enjoy something, but for whatever reason you couldn't get that enjoyment, then you become frustrated. But renunciation doesn't mean frustration. It means understanding the futility of enjoyment. We understand that this enjoyment is not worthwhile. It is so temporary. It is so miser that it is not worth actually. There is actually also a verse in the Bhagavad Gita that comes, and Krishna, it's a very emphatic verse. I believe it's the 22nd verse in the 5th chapter. Yehi samparja bhoga dukkha yonya evate adya antavantah konteya na teshu ramate buddha. So Krishna says to Arjuna that basically these material pleasures, adya antavantah konteya, they have a beginning and they have an end. So basically Krishna says that these are temporary pleasures. And na teshu ramate buddha. An intelligent person, Buddha is an intelligent person, they don't indulge in such things. Intelligent person would basically indulge in pleasures which are permanent. So basically he's talking about spiritual pleasures over there. Some people that say that people renounce because they're unambitious. Unambitious in the sense that you don't have ambition to gain something in the life. We are here in America because at some point we had the ambition that, I want to have a good life. I want to have a big house. I want to have a big car. and and you have to actually persevere to be ambitious. And just because you're afraid of persevering in your life, therefore you give up, you renounce. But actually renunciation does not mean unambition. It means super ambition. Prabhupada used to say that actually no one can live without desires. Desires, everybody has desires. So it is just the direction of the desire, in which direction you have the desire. So it is not that people renounce because things are too tough. I cannot, it's so tough, I cannot do it. This is not the only thing for renunciation. No, actually people realize that this is too tiny. These things are really too tiny for me to persevere. It is too temporary. It is not worth trying for. This actually reminds me when I was in the college. At that time I was very enamored by war movies. So at that time there was this movie that came out which was LOC Kargil. I don't know if you have seen this movie. It is based on the India-Pakistan war that happened. So Pakistan had illegally captured some of the Indian territory, and then Indian forces were fighting against Pakistan, and Pakistan had a little leverage because they were on height. So there is a very nice dialogue that had come in this dialogue actually stick to my mind. So there is this dialogue. I don't exactly remember the context in which this dialogue was delivered, but I think there was a reporter, and she comes to a captain of the army, and she says that, what is your next step? What are you going to do now? So this captain, he points to that, there is a mountain cliff where Pakistani, army had captured the cliff. So he points to it and says that is my ambition. I'm going to go there. So now this reporter said that, are you mad? You're going to die. So many people have already died. You're going to fail miserably. So this person replied, some goals are so worthy, it is glorious even to fail. So that dialogue actually stick to my mind. And actually there's some, I don't watch movies now, but somehow that dialogue got registered in my mind. And during college life, such catchy things would attract you. And then I started thinking, do I have any such goal that, some goal that should be so worthy to strive for, that even if you fail, you won't mind. So later when I came to Krishna consciousness, then I realized that actually Krishna consciousness is that goal, that, even if you fail, even that is worthy, So Krishna also says actually there is no failure. In fact, we know that in Krishna consciousness, Krishna says in the second chapter, Neha Bhikrama Nashosti Pratyavayana Vidyate Swalpam api asya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Even if you make a little progress, still that will, it will stay with you. And also Krishna says in one of the verses that even if a person fails, prapya punya kritam lokan ushitva shashvati samha shuchinam shrimatam gehe yogo bhrashto vijayate. That even if a yogi is unsuccessful in this life, after many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, he is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy, and from there he starts again. So there are two verses like that which comes in 6.41 and 6.42. So actually there is no loss in Krishna consciousness. So so the important point is we understand the difference between renunciation and the difference between frustration. So frustration basically means that you fail to get material enjoyment, and renunciation means basically we understand that these enjoyments are too tiny, they are too temporary. Now, another thing that happens is, now if your enjoyment or if your renunciation is based only on frustration, then what happens is it is not sustainable, because what happens is the nature of Maya is such that Maya will make us frustrated repeatedly, but it doesn't make us hopelessly frustrated. What does it mean hopelessly? It keeps giving us impetus, carrots, If today we failed in something, then Maya will give us something else. Okay, oh, you couldn't do this, no problem, you can do this. So such kinds of impetus it will keep on giving us. So it will never make us it will never make us hopelessly miserable. It will never make us hopelessly frustrated, but it will keep on making us frustrated repeatedly. So sustained devotion and renunciation. Actually, renunciation also necessary for devotion. We have to renounce so many things to become stable in our devotion. So sustained devotion and renunciation are never based on frustration. Basically, they are based on two things, and those two things are conviction and commitment. So conviction is basically on the intellectual platform. So intellectually, we get convinced that this is what we have to do. So once we are intellectually convinced, then the commitment is actually on the emotional platform. So bhakti is basically offering our emotions to Krishna. So we generally, what happens is we offer our emotions to material things, material relationships, and that is where we get frustrated. But once we get convinced at an intellectual level that only Krishna consciousness can make me happy, then that will give us the impetus to offer our emotions not to anything material but to Krishna. So basically, conviction will make our commitment stronger. So commitment is generally either to Krishna directly or to the devotees of Krishna. So we have made commitments to our Guru. We also have a commitment to other devotees. We live in a society, and our society have a certain standard. At least the bare minimum standard is, even if people are not chanting, the bare minimum standard is the following the four relative principles. That a person, if they want to be, in the society, they're expected to at least follow the four regulative principles. So what happens is commitment reinforces our conviction. So unless that, conviction reinforces our commitment. So the first thing is the conviction. Krishna says, Mai arpit mano buddhir. So mana and buddhi, that is to be offered to Krishna. Buddhi is intellect, the faculty of intellect, and the intellectual faculty. And mana is our emotional faculty. So both are to be offered to Krishna. But the first step is to offer our intellect to Krishna. At least at an intellectual level, we become convinced that this is what can make me happy. And then next step is that we develop love for Krishna. We learn to offer our emotions to Krishna. So I'll take a break here and see if there are any comments, questions about this verse. Anything, any questions or comments about what we discussed today?
I like a lot of your statements, Ganpati Govind, that frustration should not be the reason for, wanting to give up something. And I like that fact that you said that conviction and commitment is really the reason why we...
Yeah, sustained devotion is based on conviction and commitment. It is not based on frustration.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And just like you, I remember out of frustration, once I wanted to quit my job, and I said, don't.
Actually, at work, we see it every year. People will come and they are very hopeful that this year I'll get promotion, and they don't get promotion. Then they become frustrated, but then they have a hope that, okay,
Maya's carrot.
Next year I'll get promotion. So, if not this year, next year, and again next year, they become, frustrated. But that hope is there. Okay, next year.
Because he knew that sitting at home doing nothing, I wouldn't be doing that much Krishna consciousness. At least if I earned something, I could give something to Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, you gave a nice example of that renunciation for things which are like less value, meaning, okay, there is no, you said, and that's a good point, that it's not worthy enough that I should pursue. So I was thinking the opposite scenario, when something which is we somewhere mind accept this is too big for me to even try. So for example, maybe a person maybe in the material world, when he see that some of the people are doing too much of bhakti, and that person a mind may say, oh, maybe this is not, what do you call in English, my cup of tea, for example. So somewhere mind actually is too big for me to try, and they I don't know, it's renunciation, but they don't even then try at all. They say, okay, I wouldn't even go to that route.
Try for Krishna consciousness, you mean, right?
Yeah, even for say Krishna consciousness or any spirituality for that instance. So is that a renunciation too, kind of?
It's not renunciation. It is basically they don't have conviction enough to try the spiritual path. Krishna says in the 18th chapter itself, "Yattad agram vishameva pariname amritopam." You know, initially things may taste like poison, but at the end, you know, it will taste like nectar. So the problem is, people don't have the conviction that that initial poison which is there, it is worth the nectar that he will get at the end. So that conviction is missing. So once that conviction comes that, okay, there is so much perseverance that has to be done even on the spiritual path, but if I persevere, at the end I'll get nectar. So once that commitment comes, then the person can persevere for it. He can strive for it. You know, for us also, it was not easy. You know, following the regulative principles, you know, giving up so many things that we used to do, that we used to eat or drink or whatever, you know, so it was difficult, but we all were convinced, you know, at the intellectual level that, yes, this is what I want to do. And this is what I want to achieve. And that was the motivation for us. The price that we are getting, price in the sense, the result that we are getting, you know, that is bigger, much bigger than the price that we are paying for it. You know, so if that conviction comes that yes, it's a profitable, so because our intelligence thinks in terms of profit and loss, you know, so if we at an intellectual level understand that, okay, yes, I will get a lot of profit at the end if I just do this activity, if I invest in this business. So investing in Krishna is that, you know, initially you have to, you know, you might feel it is very difficult. The chanting 16 rounds, following the four regulative principles, it's not easy. So that's what Krishna also says, that initially it may feel like poison, but at the end it will be nectar. So, but there has to be conviction. Your mind, your intellect has to convince. So there is an example also given that of a small child. You know, the small child, when they are sick, when they have fever, you know, the mother knows that the only thing that can cure is the medicine, you know, but the medicine is very bitter and the child doesn't want to have the medicine. You know, he will try his best not to have that. I just don't want to have that medicine. But mother understands that only thing that can cure him is this medicine. So the mother forces the child, you know, he will hold the mouth and then push the you know, medicine inside the mouth. That's what we used to do when Dhruv and Brinda were really babies. Now they don't do like that, at least. So, so in this case, Acharyas give this example. So they say that in this case, the mother is like our intelligent, the child is like our mind. You know, mind is not convinced, and the medicine is like Harinam. You know, so at an intellect, so medicine is basically prescribed by the doctor, and doctor is our spiritual master, or Srila Prabhupada, we can say. That the medicine is prescribed by the doctor, who is the spiritual master. So we have to use our intelligence to force the mind to accept the medicine. So once the mind becomes a little purified, and just as the child realizes that, yes, I took the medicine and now I am feeling better and now I am able to play, that the pain has gone away and now I am, you know, able to play again with my friends or whatever. So later, whenever the symptoms reoccur, the child will automatically come and take the medicine. So like that, the child gets that realization. Like that, the mind initially, with the use of our intelligence, we have to force our mind, you know, but later at some point, the mind will become purified and then you won't have so much struggle with your mind. So the problem is the conviction of the intelligence. So if you're at an intellectual level, at least you are convinced, then it is easy. Not easy, but that is the start of the spiritual path.
Yeah, Prabhuji, yeah, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Otherwise, we can cover the next verse also. We have some time.
So Ganapati Govinda Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji, I'm sorry. Yes, Prabhu, I completely forgot about you.
Should people wait until they are fully convinced to take up Krishna consciousness, or because it seems, I mean, you should have that conviction But a lot of times, I mean, I remember, I mean, when I joined, yeah, but you know, you come, you like it, but may not be fully convinced.
Right. So the process that is told to us in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is Adav Shraddha, Tatha Sadhu Sangha, Tatha Bhajan Kriya. So first is, you should have a positive inquiry, Adav Shraddha. That Shraddha is not actually faith. Actually, Nishtha is a strong faith. So Acharya explained that Adav Shraddha means a little positive curiosity. That what are these guys doing? Let me just go and find out. And then you take association of devotees, and then basically you do sadhu sangha, and then bhajan kriya. From there the process starts, and then there are further steps are there. So this is also one of the process that happens in the spiritual life. Basically, it is said sangat sanjayate kama. Sangha. So what kind of association you have, that will give you desires. So if you have the sangha of devotees, then you will definitely get spiritual desires. That okay, these people are serving Krishna so nicely, and they are getting some nectar out of it. Let me also try to serve Krishna and see what is the nectar that they are getting. Let me also try to taste it. So that is also one way to progress in the material life, in the spiritual life. Yeah, that's what I would like to say, Prabhu.
Yeah.
But you want to add something, Prabhuji, to this?
No, I think that's good. The way you explained is more like jnani type of approach to Krishna. In the 7th chapter, there are 4 types of people. Among them, Krishna likes the one who is jnana nishta eka bhakta. And the other 3, they may come for other reasons. But like you're saying, when they have the association, that association helps them to come to that 4th stage where their conviction also becomes strong. Whereas in the beginning, they may come from other reasons. The prasadam is so nice, the kirtan is so good. These people are very friendly. Let me just check out, or I have some problems. Let me go to temple for peace. But that association is what brings them to that next level, as you explained. But I was thinking specifically of that verse, 4 types of devotees. Thank you. Very nice class.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, we can have the next verse. It's in the...
Just stop it for now from going to the next verse. I'll have a comment. Comment.
Okay, Prabhuji, please go ahead.
Mainly on Madhava Kanta's question. I think the first thing is, because he said you don't want to do these things because they're too hard. First, you have to be convinced that you should do these things. Otherwise, why should I do them if it's just ridiculous? Well, there's no reason. So first, you have to really become convinced of the philosophy. Then, if you don't want to do it, it's like, because it's too hard. It's like, what, you kind of, that's the mode of ignorance. Because, everything you want, why do you go to school? Why do you go to college? It's just too hard. It's just, why should I do that? Why should I do anything in this material world? I could just do nothing, because everything is too hard. So you have to see it's whatever you want, anything in this material world, you have to make some sacrifices for it, whatever it is. So you have to see, is it worth it for me to try to do these things? And the nice thing about Krishna consciousness, you don't have to do everything. You do as much as you can. As you surrender, you get rewarded accordingly. And then you become more and more fixed up, and you can follow more things. So I'm not sure that the question, because if you don't accept, this Krishna conscious philosophy, I'm not this body and so many other things, why would I bother? Why would anybody want to do this? It's like you just want to gratify your senses. But if you're a little bit thoughtful, this definitely makes sense. And then, should I do it? No, that's too much trouble. That's would be definitely the mode of ignorance. Why would it be too much trouble? I got to try. If I want to go back home, back to Godhead, I have to make the attempt. It is difficult if you hear every single thing you got to do. Just do as much as you can. Anyway, that's my little comment on Madhavakanta's. I think that's what his question was about, but I'm not positive.
Yeah, I think so, Prabhuji. That was his question. That the question was that he may be convinced, but he may think that it is too difficult for me. It's a very, very high thing. I can't do it basically. So some people feel like that.
Right, but you don't have to do it all. Do what you can.
Right.
It's not all or nothing. It's not our philosophy. It's
Right.
all or nothing. You do what you can. And if you don't finish, you start again in your next life. But at least you've gotten somewhere. A lot of people think it's all or nothing, and then it's discouraging. You shouldn't get discouraged. Just keep trying. That's all Krishna wants to see us try. That's now if you want to go on to the next verse or questions or comments.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
We just have 2 more minutes. So if anyone has any other questions or comments, we can discuss that. I don't think we can start a new verse now. The next verse basically talks about renunciation in the mode of goodness. So maybe we can do it tomorrow. Not me, but whoever is taking the class. I think it is Srinivasacharya Prabhu's class tomorrow. So any other question? Yeah, Prabhuji.
Nobody else is saying anything. I just have something about what you said, and I'm not sure what you said. First, you have to do something, and then love of God. What was that? What you said you had to do first?
Conviction first.
Right.
So once you are convinced, then you can be committed to it. Unless you are convinced about it, you cannot be committed. So the point was that sustained devotion and renunciation are not based on frustration. They are based on conviction and commitment. So the first is conviction. Once you are convinced that yes, this is what I have to do, then you can make a commitment to it. Unless you are convinced about it, making a commitment will be difficult.
Yes, that's good. But the love of God, it's just like, well, now I'm convinced of this, and then the love of God just comes. It's a long way between becoming convinced and then applying it all.
Yeah, so what I was saying about that, Prabhuji, is that the conviction is at the level of intelligence and commitment is at the emotional level. So what happens is today we are emotionally invested in material things, material relationships. But when I am convinced that these things cannot make me happy, only Krishna can make me happy, then I can offer my emotions to Krishna. I can redirect my emotions to Krishna. And that is the process of bhakti, redirecting our emotions from material things to Krishna. So that is what I was trying to say about that.
Okay. No further questions.
So the point there was our conviction will reinforce our commitment. So.
But initially we can join out of distress or frustration, right? I mean, it may not be sustained. Yeah.
Right. It may not be sustained. Right. So it is a initiation. That's what I said, Mataji. But it cannot be, frustration alone cannot help us sustain in Krishna consciousness. There has to be a positive impetus. Positive impetus is understanding that Krishna is so attractive. Krishna is so glorious. That is a positive impetus for us. If we are just in Krishna consciousness just because material world is so bad, and it is so miserable, and that's why I just want to renounce the material world and be in Krishna consciousness. And life in the material world is so difficult. There was a class I was hearing from Bhakti Vikas Maharaj once. He gave that class in Pune. I was watching on YouTube. So he made a point in the class that I am seeing a trend all over India that there are a lot of brahmacharis who are joining the brahmachari ashrams in ISKCON because they think that life outside the material world is very demanding. It is very difficult. And then he said that if they join in this way, they will not be able to sustain for very long. So it's a very valid point. If you're just joining just because the life outside, the material life is very demanding, it is very troublesome, and he was not Bhakti Vikas Maharaj. I was hearing another lecture where someone from Mayapur was giving that lecture. So he was saying that actually in Bengal, ISKCON is very well respected. and a lot of Bengali boys there in around Mayapur area, they are very poverty stricken. So they think that if I just get entry into the Brahmachari ashram in ISKCON Mayapur temple, then at least at a material level my life will be better. So they don't have any spiritual motivation. At least they will get food properly for 2-3 times, whatever. They will have roof on their head, and people also respect brahmacharis. So they try to join, not so much because they love Krishna, but because they think that my material life will be much better in the temple, in the brahmachari ashram, and that is their motivation. So he was also saying the same point, that such a motivation is not good. Now, if in India at least, there is a minimum qualification for brahmacharis. First is that they should have completed their education, graduation minimum. And most temples have this condition. At least few years back when I was in India, they had this condition that at least they should have worked for 2 years. So they should have had a proper job for 2 years. And then if they meet these conditions, they were given entry into the brahmachari ashram. So basically the idea was that for a prolonged period of time, you have tried out the material life outside, and still if you have that conviction that I want to join the brahmachari ashram and live in the temple as a full-time devotee, then it is more likely that you will sustain in bhakti. Otherwise, if you just join in like 6 months, you have been in KC, Krishna consciousness, and you think that, okay, let me join full time, then you may not be able to sustain if you don't have the proper motivation. Excuse me.
But you said that you should not join but can't the difficulties and miseries of the material world around you become an impetus in Krishna consciousness? Now, can't that be?
Right. So I was telling the same, right, Shyamanand Prabhu's pastime. So Shyamanand Prabhu, when he went to Radhanath Maharaj and said that I want to join full time. So Radhanath Maharaj said, why do you want to join? So he said that because the world is dukhalayam ashashvatam, there's so much misery outside. So Maharaj said that there are so many problems in brahmachari ashram also. So when you will come to when you realize those problems in the brahmachari ashram, then where will you renounce and go? So problem is everywhere in the material world. Material world is not a perfect place. Even in the sannyasis also have problems. They have so many problems, sannyasis. Brahmacharis also have the class of the problem is different. For grahasthas, the class of the problem is different. For brahmacharis, the class of the problem is different. But problems are still there.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to change your ashram, but within your ashram, you can do.
Right. So the point is that just because of problems, if you're running away and you're using Krishna as a hiding place, not because you love Krishna, just because you don't want to deal with the material problems of the material world, then that is not a sustainable motivation. So you will be able to probably stay there for some time in Krishna consciousness, but you won't be able to sustain. Now it is possible that after staying there for some time, you may get purified, and then you might be able to get a more positive inclination. It is possible, but that doesn't generally happen.
Well, that's where the guidance of the guru comes, that makes the difference.
So what you're saying is, I'm just giving a different example, I think, of what you're saying. If you're married, you have a wife, you have kids, and it's just so much problems, so therefore maybe I should take sannyas. Right.
That's a perfect example.
People may have thought about that. So when should you take sannyas?
You tell me, Prabhuji. I'm sure. So, if you look at Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that when you don't have material desires, no material motivation, neither a positive material motivation, neither a negative material motivation. Positive material motivation is that sometimes we see that sannyasis also have good life. They have so many disciples, and the disciples take care of them very nicely. So if someone just thinks that, okay, I'll have so many followers and I will get so much money, but if I renounce, that would be like a positive material motivation. Negative material motivation is that when you think that, oh, material world is so miserable, it is so bad. So basically Krishna says that you should be purified in a sense that you should not have any material motivations. You should have spiritual motivation. So in our case, when we are convinced that, we want to offer everything to Krishna, all our actions, we only want to work in Krishna consciousness, then I would think we should, but I'm sure you will have a better answer to that.
No, I have no answer. But I agree with your answer about the motivation. Why do we want to do it? I mean, that's important to know. And we have to be honest with ourselves.
Right.
Do you mind if I take sannyas?
I was just going to ask you, Pyari, when are you taking sannyas? Are you considering?
I was going to say whenever Mataji tells him to do so.
Whenever I tell you.
Oh, right.
Jiva Mataji should tell Prabhu, you are so attached, you should now be renounced.
Told him many years ago.
Yeah, there was this guy died and went to heaven. And when he was there was two lines. There's two lines of men. One line was a long line, and it was men who are controlled by their wives, and it was a long line. The other line had nobody in it except for one guy. And then so they asked him, "Why are you in this line?" He said, "Because my wife told me to stand." Oh, it's 100%. Hare Krishna. Anyway, it was a good class, good points.
Yeah, very nice.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Mataji. Okay, I think we can end the class here. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhyabhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.